Hello again and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a channel for all of my designs to show you how to go about making them and to show you that they're not as hard as you think. So today I'm going to show you how to make the cloth Chloe clutch in a 6x10 hoop, which uses up to 3 different fabrics. You've got one for the flap, which is this one for the front and one for the back. And obviously you've got your lining, inside pocket, and all of the raw edges have got a satin stitch on them. Because it's using fabric, you're going to have to use something to stiffen the fabric up. I've suggested using foam, A4 foam, craft foam paper. It's, hold on, it's this, not very expensive, it's only a couple of mil thick. So we're going to be using this to stiffen up the fabric, and it just uses one A4 piece. I've done the first part of the design, which is the flap, which is P1. I'm going to show you how to do P2. P1 and P2, which is part 1, part 2, are the same process. There's only 4 steps. And the first step is stitch the outline onto the stabilizer. Second step is stitch this down onto the stabilizer, cut it out, then lay your fabric over the top, your lining underneath, and then cut it out and then put your satin stitch on, and then that's done. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. I've already done that on this one. So I'm using colours that you can see, which is red on the outline. I've used black fabric, and I'm using a spotty lining fabric today. So I'm going to stop talking now and take you down to the machine. I suggest, because you're using foam paper, that you lift your foot height up. I think I'm using 2.5 mil on my height of my foot, just to stop the foot from dragging over the foam paper, and just allows it to hover over the foam paper. So make sure you do that. You see my nice jumper. Okay, let's take you in. Can you see? I think you can. Let's open that a bit better. Sorry about that. Okay, so I've done the outline onto the foam paper. This is P2. Onto the stabilizer. Sorry, I'm using medium weight tearaway stabilizer. If you've got sorry, the camera's flickering. If you've got wash away stabilizer, it'll be easier to do that because you won't get fluffy edges. I get fluffy edges on this. What's happening to the camera? Right, hopefully, fingers crossed, that works okay. Yeah, so I get fluffy edges on this. So I will use a lighter very quickly over the edges to get rid of it, and maybe a Sharpie. But if you've got water soluble stabilizer, use that and then just dampen that down. Or if you've got clear table protector as a stabilizer, use that and you won't see it at all. Okay, so I'm just gonna, what is wrong with this camera? I'm sorry. Hopefully that'll be okay. Please just ignore all of that. Right, so I'm going to stitch this down now. It's not going to stitch on this part here, so because I know that, I'm just going to move it up. Should have looked, shouldn't I? Let's take that back to the beginning. Now we're going to use my applique scissors and we're going to cut the foam out. This way. Just carefully cut this bottom piece off. If I pick it up, I can just glide the scissors over it. There we go. Okay, so then that's done. What I need to do now is put the lining paper and the lining fabric underneath and the front fabric on top. So I've got them already cut out. This is going to be the same on the top and the bottom. I'm going to use some adhesive, temporary adhesive spray. Spray it on. Lay my lining fabric over the back. Carefully place that back into the machine. Lay my fabric over the top, making sure that it's covering everything, and stitch it down. Bit of a tangle. It's come on threaded. And that's just the guide for the Now, using your applique scissors, trim around the whole of the design, from the top and from the back as well. I'm not going to trim this little corners out, I'm just going to leave them in for now. Turn it over and do the same for the back. This is going to have a satin stitch on the top. And this bit is just going to be, this will have a satin stitch when it's added to the final part. And these bits will have a satin stitch and they'll go on the inside of the bag. Okay, all of that's done. Well, let's do the satin stitch on this top. And that bit's completely finished. So it's done the satin stitch and then it's done a bean stitch underneath it, just to tidy it all up. So I'm going to take this out of the hoop now. These top bits I save for my 4x4 hoop, so I try and take it out as carefully as possible so that I'm not wasting my stabiliser. Oh, I don't need that anyway. It's the top bits I need. This scissors, where are you? There we go. Okay, so I've got a little bit of fluff on the top. That's fine. I'm gonna get my lighter and just show you how I get rid of the little bits of fluff. I get rid of all the cotton, if I can see any cotton, and then quickly just run a flame over the edge. Done. That's good enough. If you have still got, you can still see a little bit of white, just run a little Sharpie or a fabric pen over the little white bits, but if you're using water soluble stabiliser you won't get any of that anyway. Now we're going to do the final part, which is P3. And I'm going to add my stabiliser. Okay, so 1 second. That is. So now we're going to add the last remaining piece of the A4 foam paper, and we're just going to sew this down. Trim and remove the excess from the foam paper because we don't need it. Then what we need to do is add our lining paper to the underside of the hoop. And stitch the pocket placement down. And this will stitch it onto the lining. Remove the hoop from the machine, turn over and place your pocket fabric, which I've got here. I've already ironed it, and place that over your placement guide. can just see the tops of the pocket there. And just the bottom. Place your hoop carefully back onto your machine, making sure that everything's okay, and it will stitch the pocket fabric down. And now we need to trim the remaining fabric from the pocket and trim that off. Remove the tape, we don't need the tape any longer. Closer, I think, and trim that off. That's it. Place back onto the machine and stitch out the satin line around the pocket. done. Super duper. Oh, that was great. Okay, so now what we need to do is add the fabric that we're putting on the top of this. This is going to be the back part of the clutch. So the back part of mine is going to be big white polka dots. I'm going to stitch that down. It'll give me the outline of the design as well. So it's going to do all of these and the side seams of the bag. 1 second. Always make sure that your needle's threaded. Now we need to remove the fabric from around the top of the bag and the bottom of the bag, including the little corners. These little corners are going to be the top of the seam, which run down the side of the bag. So we want to get rid of all of them, because that's going to have a satin edge finish. Snip this little corner out. Turn it over and repeat. Now it's just going to add a little satin stitch on the top corners of the bag, which will be the side seam when the bag's stitched together. Oh, done. Come do this one. Now we're going to add these parts to this part here. So this is the front, this is the back. So you need it lining side facing up and match up this satin edge with that satin edge, this satin edge with that satin edge, and the stitched line over the stitched line. It should all match up perfectly. Lower your needle. So lower the needle in and stitch it down. You can tape it in place if you want to. Use my fingers. If you find that you can still see your fabric, just run your plique scissors over it and just trim that up. I'm not sure that I'll be able to get any closer while it's still in the machine, but I can try. No, not really. It's not really taking anything off. So just be aware of that. You might need to go over it one more time if it does show loads. Notice I put my hand over that because I knew it was going to go to that corner. I will move that stitch so it comes down to that one, I think. And we're going to do the same again. Let's cut all these bits off. Tidy this up. See if we can get a bit closer. And again, lower your needle into the top corner, match the stitch lines up. Can you see? No. Match the stitch lines up and then stitch it. and the last stitch you don't need. I've just added it so that the machine doesn't collaborate and finish in the middle. So just remove the design from your hoop. I can still see a little bit of the fabric on the top of the thing, but that's fine. All I'm going to do is run my scissors along it and trim it off. It's just because I didn't trim it close enough in the first place, so that's my fault. The bottom one has got nothing on it because I trimmed it close enough. Yeah, the bottom one's fine. It's just got a bit of the stabiliser. See if I can get the fluffiness off with the scissors. Yeah, it looks like I can. When you do this, you just got to be really careful that you don't trim the stitches. I quickly run my lighter over it just to get rid of it. There we go. And the same for this one. I think my light's going to run out of gas soon. Okay, so the last step is simply adding the seams, finishing off the seams, and all you do is you'll use your 4x4 hoop. If you don't want to use the 4x4 hoop that I've enclosed, you are welcome to use a sewing machine, but because I've put said that this is a completely in the hoop clutch, I always enclose it to show you that it can be done in the hoop. So I'm going to get my 4x4 hoop ready and stitch out the placements for the seams onto your stabiliser. While that's stitching, I'm just going to tidy all these bits up. Okay, so on the previous Chloe clutch I said to go from the top to the bottom. On this one I'm saying to turn it upside down and go from the bottom to the top, because I found that you can match these satin edges up a lot easier doing it this way. So again, you're going to lower the needle into, sorry my arm's in the way, going to lower the needle into the corner and then make sure, no, we're not ready yet, just got to move that over a bit more, take all these little loose threads off. That's it. Right, lower the needle into the corner. Be quiet, doggies. And then stitch down. It will stitch down and then it will go straight into a satin stitch. need to do the same for the other side. So again, let's just trim these little bits off. Match the top and the bottom together. Make sure that the lines sit over each other and stitch down. It doesn't feel like it's in the tension discs there. Let's try that again. That's better. Move it back a couple of stages. And the last step is not needed. It's just been put there to stop the machine from going back into the middle. Okay, let's trim all these bits up. Tidy it up. Be a lot easier if I had water soluble stabiliser, but I've got to use what I have, which is tear away. There we go. So that's the design, and now we need to finish it off by adding either the poppers or the clasps, whatever you're adding. I'm going to show you how to add the bag clasps. You probably know how to use it because you've probably done one of these clutches already. But oh god, I've got ghost in here. So yeah, that's that's the bag there. That's the back seam, and the underside. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. Yeah, that looks good. I do like that. Right, okay, so let's go and add the clasp to the bag. Hopefully it doesn't stop working. Okay, so I'm going to be adding a bag twist clasp to this bag. I get them from Amazon and they come in 4 parts. This is the front, this is the back to that, that's the front, and that's the back to that. We need a craft knife or a scalpel, and all you do is you use these prongs and you push them down into the fabric. You put, if you can see, there's a hole there. That's my guide for the cam snap, popper or bag clasp. So I need to make sure that that is in the middle of my my bag clasp, that way, and then I turn it round, rotate it round and do it again, so it'll give me 4 little guides. I've got one there, one there, one there and one there, and I'm going to use them to give me a guide to cut a square out of my fabric. Bearing in mind I've got a layer of fabric, a layer of foam, a layer of stabiliser and another layer of fabric, so you might have to press quite hard down. Okay, so I've got my square. All I'm going to do is put my bag clasp over the square, make sure that it's nice and straight, turn it over and add the back of the bag clasp to the back of the flap, and then very gently just give it a couple of little taps just to make sure that these little prongs are in. Now that part's there's done. There is done. I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to see my little guide here in the centre of this bag clasp there, and I'm going to use this to push down and give me a guide as to where that part needs to be, using my craft knife and very gently, not cutting through into my fingers. I need to go through both layers, the foam and the stabiliser. Just be careful of your fingers, then poke your prongs through the 2 little holes that you've created and you'll be able to see them on the inside of the bag. Just there they are. Take the back of this part and put it over your 2 prongs. Can you see there? 2 prongs, and then just fold them in on top of each other. You can add this part before you sew up the seams if you want to. Get your hammer, give it a couple of little taps, and there it is there, and that will be nice and secure to help your bag close. And that is your 6x10 bag finished with satin edges. Sorry about the camera, it's just about to conk out. So hopefully this has helped you understand how the 6x10 cloth Chloe clutch has been completed. Thanks for watching.